All right, everyone, let me ask you a question. How is your sleep? How'd you sleep last night? Was it a good night's sleep? Was it a restful night's sleep, or was it a little bit short of what you would have liked? This week on the Brain Lady Speaks podcast, we are going to be talking about all things sleep, how sleep is related to brain health, to mental health, to performance, to cognitive function, and why it is so important to get good, high quality sleep. So stick with me. This is Julie Brain Lady Anderson, and let's have some fun with sleep. All right. So, how is your sleep pattern? What is your sleep pattern like? I talk to people all the time in my business as after I'm speaking or out and about networking, and sleep will oftentimes be a topic of conversation. And the reason why is because I will often get asked different things about cognitive function. Memory, for example. I will have people ask me, what's the best brain tip or brain health tip or supplement to take to improve my memory? Because memory seems to just be top of people's minds. Everybody seems to be a little bit shaky on their memory lately. And so they'll ask me for assistance on this. And one of the things or I should say, the first thing that I always turn around and ask them is, before we talk supplementations, before we talk different things that you can take to improve or enhance your memory, let's talk about your sleep, because your memory actually starts with your sleep. What a lot of people tend to forget is that good, high quality sleep is essential for good memory. And I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why and what your brain does and goes through. And it's not just the amount of sleep, the hours of sleep that you have. It's also, more importantly, the quality of the sleep that you get. Because you may be sleeping 10 hours a night, but if that's only 5 hours worth of quality sleep, then you're actually not sleeping enough. And that's another thing that in conversations with people, they say, well, I sleep long enough. I sleep 8 or 9 hours a night. So it couldn't possibly be my sleep. Well, it can be your sleep, because if it's not good quality sleep, it's going to affect all of your cognitive functions. Now, scientists and doctors have known for decades that sleep is connected to your physical health, right? Your body needs that downtime to repair itself. It needs that time to cleanse itself, right? To get everything kind of taken care of that's under the covers, so to speak, right? But in the last few years, I should say, and in the last few years, what's become incredibly noticeable and incredibly obvious via different brain scans is the importance of good quality sleep to your overall brain health, your cognitive function, and even your mood regulation. Now, we see all kinds of neurological challenges going on in the world today with children, with teenagers, with screen time, with just the list goes on, right? And we want to talk about how the impact of sleep, or what the impact sleep has on those different functions. So, sleep, first of all, is a powerful, powerful stress reliever. I mean, just getting away from the stress because you're out, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about more how your brain defrags at night. There's so much work that the brain does while you are asleep that you're not even aware of. And that's why that high quality sleep is so very important. And I'm going to give you a few tips at the end of this podcast on how to get some better quality sleep. Hopefully, those suggestions will help you. Now, I do want to state, as I always do, this is just informational purposes only, right? If you are seriously having sleep issues, it could be something more medically necessary that you need to have checked out, meaning you could have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea actually leads to anoxia in the brain, right? You're just not getting enough oxygen in the brain. That can lead to damaging your brain cells and even shortening your life. So that's pretty serious. You want to make sure that anything that you hear here, if it you use it as an add value to what care you may already be under. And if it triggers some questions in your mind, like maybe I do have sleep apnea, or maybe I do need to talk to a professional, I encourage you to do that. Have your sleep patterns tested. Especially if the suggestions that I give you at the end of this podcast don't necessarily help you to improve your sleep, then you'll want to take it a little bit further and talk to your doctor or your whoever, whatever therapist you might be seeing, or professional whose care you might be under, to investigate it just a little bit further. But we know, or I should say, now we know that sleep is powerful for reducing stress. So it's really important that you follow a routine of sleep, the same as you would a routine for exercise, for spending time out in nature, for eating healthy, for hydrating. All of those things are incredibly important. All of your day, your entire day, is going to be heavily affected by your sleep pattern. You're going to make wise choices or unwise choices based on how good your sleep is. I mean, let's just think about this. Sleep, when people look at me as a brain health professional and they say, what's the number one thing? Like, if I can only change one thing in my life to make my brain healthier, what would you tell me? I would tell you sleep. Now, hydration is incredibly important. There's a plethora of studies on exercise and the importance of exercise. We've recently done podcasts on blue spaces and green spaces and gardening and being out in nature and animals, all these different things. They're all incredibly beneficial. And you might put them all kind of on that level playing field of what's important to do for your health. I am here to tell you that all of those will fall apart. The reason why I put sleep as number one is because all of those will fall apart if you are not getting good, healthy, high quality sleep. For example, just think with me here, imagine with me here. You have gotten a very restful, peaceful night's sleep. What happens? You wake up refreshed. Cognitively, you're on it, man. You are just kicking out the ideas. You're feeling great. That means that what are you going to do? You're going to make good decisions. You're going to make clear decisions. You're going to have the energy to go out and do your exercise. You're going to think about drinking. I pointed here to my drink, right? Drinking healthy water or things that are going to hydrate your body well. And so you're just going to make good, smart decisions. You're going to perform better at work. You're going to be more comfortable with your family members. Because when you think about the opposite, what happens if you don't get a good night's sleep? Well, you probably wake up a little bit grumpy, right? You're maybe just a little bit shorter with your loved ones. So your relationships suffer. You don't have the energy because you're tired to go out and do your workout, to go to the gym, to go get on the elliptical, to go walk the dog. You just physically don't have that energy, so you don't do it. And because you're low on energy and maybe cognitively a little foggy, what do? You reach for the things that are going to give you that instant wake up, right? So maybe it's the caffeine. Instead of just drinking your one normal cup of coffee, you're drinking coffee every 30 minutes. You're slamming down, those energy drinks that are full of sugars and caffeines. So you're overdoing your brain's influence by these stimulants. You're doing anything to stay awake and to have the energy to move throughout the day. You get where I'm going with this? You are making poor decisions with your, in your work. Or maybe you're avoiding, if you're like me and you work from home and you have a home office, I'll tell you right now, if I'm tired and I haven't had a good night's sleep, it's almost like my office door is invisible to me, right? I'm just walking. I'm just going through the house. I will do anything. My brain will procrastinate me and will distract me with anything other than having to put on makeup and go sit down in front of the computer and do a Zoom meeting or record a video cast. It's because our brain is tired, it's fatigued, and that stems from the lack of sleep. So sleep is an incredibly, incredibly important thing. You make better decisions, you have sharper judgment, you are better able to access that a beautiful prefrontal cortex of yours, cope with the stresses and everything that hits you during the day if you are well rested. And you have to remember what goes on in the brain while you are sleeping, right? When you are sleeping, the brain kind of shuts down a lot of the bodily functions to just like an idle, right? It doesn't shut them down completely. It just kind of puts it in an idle spot. And then it's during those sleep patterns that your brain goes into all of these very important processes, right? It helps you, or it goes into consolidating your memories. It's hugely important is that sleep is where all of those short-term memories or those new experiences that you experienced during the day, that's when the brain kind of connects it into and converts the short-term memories into the long-term memories. This is why I said in the onset that if somebody is telling me they have memory issues, the first thing I want to know is, what is your sleep like? Because if you're not getting that really good REM sleep, that really good memory consolidation, process is going on during your sleep, then you're not able to organize any newly learned information, any new experiences. And sometimes those important experiences completely leave your brain totally. Like if there's ever been those moments when you have gone, man, I really think something's wrong with me because so and so is saying we had this conversation and I don't remember the conversation at all. Go back, keep a sleep journal and go back and look, what was my sleep pattern like? What was the quality of my sleep like during the days or the time that they say we had these conversations? Because chances are, if your sleep was disturbed, then your memory was disturbed. So not only is this REM sleep important for the consolidation of memories, but also for understanding potential threats. When your brain processes all that information through the amygdala and the hippocampus and just really, trying to figure out what is a real threat and what isn't a real threat. This type of thing also happens during your sleep, your REM sleep, as well as increasing your problem-solving cognitive functions. So this healthy sleep, right, is very important for multiple things, not just the memory consolidation. The brain also uses sleep for kind of a cleanup. I tell people it's kind of like when the brain does its defrag. I don't know. Computers don't do this as much. Well, they still do it, but we don't program them to do it as much as we did. I'm dating myself a little bit. 10, 15 years ago, you'd have to always set a regular defrag time for your computer. And if you didn't defrag it on a regular basis, everything slowed down, right? It's like opening up every process and every document. Everything was just like this spinning wheel of death. It was just awful. So you have to defrag your computer. A lot of computers are programmed to automatically do that now. But this is what happens during your sleep, right? It goes through kind of this cleanup. It's during sleep processes that the brain gets rid of this beta amyloid plaque. You've probably heard of that in the news. This is something that's connected to degenerative brain diseases and degenerative brain disorders. So if you're not getting adequate sleep, then your brain's not able to completely vacuum the floor, right? It's just doing a once over. It's not deep cleaning all of that gunk out of your brain. I mean, that's literally when the fluids themselves in the brain will clean up. So it's super, super important from a structural point of view as well. Sleep is. There's definitely the connection to sleep and mood, right? The more, and again, we all know, I mentioned it before, you don't get enough sleep, you're grumpy. You're just straight up grumpy. It also inhibits the activity. They showed there's a really good, let me see if I can pull it up here online. I read a lot of research, white papers, and study results that are published on the National Library of Medicine. So it's PubMed Central is kind of where that's at. And I think it's, let me see here, it's pmc.ncbi and then whatever the topic is that you're looking for would be the rest of those dots. But it is in the National Library of Medicine, and there's just a plethora of just a wealth of information there because they actually show the studies and they will show the results. And some of the result are studies that I was reading on, were large mass people studies, like 39,000 people who were studied, who got adequate sleep and had sleep deprivation. And the brain scans, the results from the brain scans post, right afterwards. And they found this very, very close connection, of course, between how healthy your sleep pattern is and mood behaviors, literally cognitive behaviors. Poor sleep worsens, without a doubt, worsens mental health. And then it kind of becomes almost like this downward negative spiral. Stanford University published their findings because they were like, if you're not getting enough sleep, it's going to lead to poor mental health, especially if you're struggling with mental health challenges anyways. Lack of sleep or just simply not getting adequate sleep. We're not talking about pure sleep deprivation, but just not getting enough high quality sleep, then compounds the mental health challenges. And it just gets worse because then the worsening mental health challenges, then you get the racing thoughts. And guess what? That then can disrupt sleep. Stanford University did some really good reports on that you can look up. So sleep deprivation can reduce that emotional control, which makes it harder then to use your prefrontal cortex. Brain scan studies show, now from past podcasts, this prefrontal cortex is your higher thinking, it's your executive functioning, it's where you understand consequences of your actions, where you can problem solve and figure out your way through stressful situations. It goes down. It's not as active if you haven't had enough sleep. What is more active is that good old amygdala, which we don't want that to be overactive. Remember, it has its place, it has its time to activate, and that is in those moments of real life-threatening situations. We don't want it overreacting. If we are not getting enough sleep, then it becomes this hot button. It fires faster than the prefrontal cortex can engage, and therefore you're not able to regulate your emotions as well. REM sleep's often been described as important for processing emotions and emotional learning than just about anything else, right? Because that's when the brain does all of this important work, right? And then, of course, there's just the straight up physical health that sleep gives you. You need that physical time, that your body needs that physical time or that time in sleeping to improve its physical health. Anyone who has been sick knows, right? When you're sick, you need more sleep. This has become like, wow, important to me lately, or I should say profoundly obvious to me lately. I did go through some health challenges the beginning of this year, a surgery and then a complication of a surgery and then a third complication, not as severe, but a third complication. And it just, to this day, last week, this is unheard of for me. I'm about an 8.5 hour sleep night person. Last week I had 3 nights that I slept an average of 10 hours each night. 10 hours each night. So my body is going through this repair work and it needs that extra sleep. So there's the definite connection, right, to sleep and physical health. So if you're going under extra stress physically or extra stress emotionally, then you're going to need more sleep because this is when the body carries out that repair and recovery process, like literally repairing the tissues that have been damaged. Creating the right amount of growth hormone. It gives your body time to work with its immune system, right? Which we all know that's important for, addressing inflammation and infections. It is also, they've done some really interesting studies Insight on Psychology did a study that showed how the connection between cardiovascular health and how the quality of your sleep, because heart rate and blood pressure naturally drop during sleep. And if your heart's not getting that respite, right, it's not getting that kind of downtime, then it itself is overworking. And then, as the brain lady, I'm always going to look at the brain health piece of it. And I have already talked about part of that, but disturbed sleep and sleep disorders, especially things like snoring or sleep apnea, right? They definitely have a connection and are associated to worse brain health, including higher risk for dementia and higher risk for stroke. So really important to take a look at your sleep and what you're doing with how often or how much sleep you're getting. So really, really important. So what's your sleep like? Right? Take a nice deep breath and think, am I really getting enough sleep? Again, I'll talk to people all the time who say, I don't really think sleep is the issue because I get enough sleep. It's not the hours as much as it is the quality. Yes, you need the hours because your REM sleep, those cycles take a certain amount of time. And you want to be able to fall into those cycles as you want to be able to cycle through those cycles often enough for that brain health. So that leads me to how many sleep cycles, right? What am I talking about? A sleep cycle? Well, a sleep cycle that takes you through the REM sleep and the other stages of sleep. Each cycle should run right around 90 minutes, about an hour and a half. If you're only getting 4 of those sleep cycles, that's not enough. That's considered substandard, right? You want at least 5 cycles, and your target really should be around 6. So that gives you, that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Now, you may be one of those people that your sleep is really, really, really efficient. And so you need close, 7 hours might even feel like it's a little too long. Trust me when I say that research is telling us that even if you feel like totally refreshed after 6 hours of sleep, the long-term effect on your brain health will become visible at some point in time. This is what research is showing us. So you really want to aim somewhere between that 7, 8 hours of all the way up to 9 hours of really healthy sleep. Because if you can hit 5 to 6 of those 90-minute cycles, then you're not going to have memory problems. You're not going to have a lot of brain health problems. Or if you are dealing with mental health or brain health challenges, or even physical health challenges, if you can hit that 6 cycles a night, high quality, good cycles, then that's going to be what is helping your brain, your mental health, and all of that heal or improve. So think about that. Really, really be very judgmental about yourself as to, am I getting enough good quality sleep? That's incredibly important because that is what is going to positively affect everything. So, the importance of sleep. You know why I hammer on it all the time. You know why that's the first thing that I talk to people about when they're talking to me about their mental health and their physical health and their brain health. So what is it that you can do to improve your sleep? How do you improve your sleep? And when and where and how do you start? Well, I tell everybody, step number 1 is first thing in the morning. Your activity, very first thing in the morning, is going to highly impact how good your sleep is tonight. Because this is when your brain starts its circadian rhythm. So let's just talk about this really briefly for a second. What happens? You've got this little gland back here behind our eyes. There's actually part of it on both hemispheres. It's called the pineal gland or pineal gland. I'm not really sure exactly how to pronounce it. I should have looked that up before I did the show, right? But this gland is what is responsible for telling the brain to secrete melatonin. Now, melatonin, we know, is the sleep neurochemical. When this starts to increase in your body, in your brain, everything shuts off, you get tired, you yawn, and you slide off into a nice deep sleep. This stops being produced. So it starts being produced when it gets dark. It stops being produced when it gets light. So this is why I say first thing in the morning, it is really important to get direct light into your eyes. Now, not artificial light. Let me emphasize this. We are not talking about the blue light that you can get from your phones. This is bad, bad, bad. You never want to touch this first thing in the morning. We'll do a whole nother podcast on that. But you want to be able to just gently get moved through that theta wave brain state, stop that melatonin production, and get into the higher alpha waves and the waves where your brain is more active. The best way to do that is to expose your eyes to sunlight. Now, there's a lot of sunlight has gotten such because of the, reduction of the ozone layer. It's gotten a lot of bad press lately. And I'm not saying go lay out in the sun, in a bathing suit when it's 20 degrees outside just to get the sunlight. I'm saying if you can, if it's bad weather, go to a window, put your face towards that window where the sunlight is coming in. I do, if the weather is nice, if it is a time of year where the weather is nice, which where I live in the Northern California foothills, I get that about 3/4 of the year. I will go outside, I will sit in the sun early in the morning when the rays are the least toxic, and I will put my face facing the sun. Don't look at the sun. You know what I mean, right? Just let the sun get into it warms your body, it gets your circulation going, and it stops the sleep cycle. It stops the production of melatonin. So instead of wandering around for the first couple of hours of your day, feeling groggy, feeling like you need to reach for a bunch of caffeine, you're actually you're setting that rhythm so that now 12 to 14 hours later, it will be that much easier for your body when it starts getting dark. It'll be that much easier for your body to begin to produce melatonin. Because this is another problem. If you sleep in late in the morning, then your brain doesn't stop melatonin production until you wake. So if you're not getting out of bed until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, and your brain needs at least 12 hours in its circadian cycle before it starts producing melatonin again, then you're not going to go to sleep. You're not going to feel, you're going to lay there restless. You're going to go, well, I try to go to bed at night, every night at 8 o'clock, and it just doesn't work. I can't fall asleep until midnight. Well, it might be because you woke up too late that morning. So you want to have a set point in the morning when you get up, when it's I don't know what your day and your schedule's like, but you want to think 12 to 14 hours from now is when I want to actually be falling asleep. Now, some studies have shown that the quality of sleep between 12 or 9 p.m. and midnight, when it's first dark, when the first push of melatonin is in your brain, that's the highest quality. So think about that as you're setting your sleep cycle. Tip number one to set a good night's sleep is to start first thing in the morning, right? Get that sunlight so you can get your brain's circadian cycle going. The next tip is to start winding down a few hours before you actually want to fall asleep. So again, a lot of people will say, well, I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I can't fall asleep until 11 o'clock or midnight. I just lay there restless. So I wind up getting up and reading a book, or I wind up scrolling on my phone or whatever. That's danger. That's where it becomes this, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot, for lack of a better expression, because you need to start winding down a couple of hours at least before you're actually climbing in bed and closing your eyes. So if you are going, you're working in your home office until 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then you're going straight from your home office to brush your teeth to climbing in bed, of course you're going to have a hard time going to sleep because your brain hasn't had that wind down time. So your wind down time needs to be, don't eat late in the evening, right? Make sure that your last meal is at minimum a couple of hours before you want to fall asleep. because get the bulk of your digestion done before, because remember, your body goes into kind of this little mini hibernation every night, and it's not going to do that if it's got a gut full of food that needs to be digested. So all of this, munching while you're watching a movie at night, that's counterproductive to high quality sleep. So make sure if you can, those last 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, you're not eating anything. You're just allowing your body to digest what's already in its system. That is the second step that you want to do. And of course, you want to make sure that what you do have, if you're going to have a really spicy meal, you might want to add another hour to that because that might add some digestive upset to the evening. The next thing is that you have to think about the factors that are conducive to high quality sleep. And that is what I call the CCQD. CCQD. So, you want it to be cool. You want the atmosphere. Oh, let me back up for just a minute. And let me talk about technology. I talked about the production of melatonin. When it gets light, the melatonin stops producing. When it gets dark, the melatonin begins to produce, or the messaging to the brain, that neurochemistry shifts. When you are in a blue light screen or a blue light filter on your phone is not sufficient, because it's not just about the blue light alone. It is about light coming straight in through your eyes, period, no matter what that light is. So the brain likes the D in the CCQD is dark while you're actually sleeping, but you also want it to be dark prior to for a couple of hours, an hour at least prior to laying your head on the pillow. So you do not want to be laying in bed doing this, scrolling. Don't confuse your brain, right? Don't confuse your brain. The bed and the bedroom should be for a couple of things. One I'm not going to talk about on this show, and the other one is sleep, right? You don't want the bed to be scroll time. You don't want the bed to be watch TV time. Now, I do know a lot of individuals, especially those of you who follow me and who are listening, that they need the white noise, or they find that the white noise of the television playing in the background is actually helpful for them to sleep because of the trauma that they have experienced in the past. I would suggest, if you can, move away from the television to a sleep machine. Move away from the television to a sound machine, especially a sound machine that will give you natural sounds, water sounds, wave sounds, like waves crashing on the beach, rain falling, leaves blowing in the wind, birds chirping. There's a lot of neuroscience that has been done on how the brain reacts to those natural sounds. So if you can, now if your brain is trained, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not like, oh, Monday I did it with the TV and Tuesday I'm doing it with the sound machine and everything was perfect. It takes time to train the brain. But the thing with television is the brain has these different modes, right? So if it's in TV watching mode, it's in TV watching mode. It's not in sleep mode, right? You want the bedroom to be a place that's sleep mode. This is why during COVID, I really coached a lot of people who had to all of a sudden shift and work from home. A lot of individuals were putting their home office or their desk in their bedroom because they either didn't want it in any other parts of the house, or the bedroom was the most private place that they could conduct business. The challenge with doing that is you're actually confusing the brain, because when you walk into the bedroom, then your brain's kind of looking, whether you're directly looking at the desk or not, your brain knows there's a stack of work on that desk. And so your brain is kind of like, am I in work mode? Do I think about work, or am I in sleep mode? So you want to make this bedroom, this sleep area, your sanctuary. It is the place that your brain is programmed to sleep and not do anything else. Other than that other thing that we're not going to talk about it on this show. Anyways, moving on. So you want to be sure that you do not scroll your phone or do anything that's like this, that's close to your face, or my lights, or a computer screen, for a couple of hours, or at least an hour, minimum of an hour, if not a couple hours prior to bed, because you want your brain and your mind to be able to kind of unwind and back down from that activity. You Even e-readers. I even warn people with e-readers. If you want to read at night, my suggestion is read a real book and read the real book with a light. If you need a light, make the room dark. Have a book light that is like hooked onto your book, or a light that is coming from behind you shining down on the book, or that light is on the book, because you don't want that light going straight to that pineal gland, right? Because you don't want it to infringe on that natural cycle of producing that melatonin at all. So think about that. And that leads right into going, now let's talk about that CCQD. So what does that stand for? The first C is comfortable. I know a lot of people who will spend so much money on their entertainment system, so much money on their gaming system, right? They will just like get the primo and just spend thousands of dollars on that. They'll spend $1,000 on the chair they sit in, but they won't spend the money to get a good quality bed. So test some beds out, spend the money on a good quality bed. You'll have it for longer than a poor quality bed, and your sleep quality will be enhanced. And that's the same with even your materials, right? Your sheets, your blankets, right? You want them to be soft against the skin. You don't want anything that's going to be anything other than comfortable. And that leads me to just a side point. If you have any kind of trauma, if you are an individual who um, maybe has a lot of racing thoughts at night, try a weighted blanket. I have been using a weighted blanket for years and I absolutely love it. I do a lot of traveling for business, as you know, and I have a hard time sometimes falling asleep in certain hotels just simply because it's not that the bed's uncomfortable, it's that I don't have the weighted blanket. So I will throw I will throw my coat, or I will ask for an extra blanket and kind of fold it over and put it on top of me, because I that weight is it's just kind of calming. It's almost like a physical hug. So you might try a weighted blanket. There's a lot of neuroscience. I'm not going to get into it on this particular show, but there's neuroscience that shows that that is helpful for sleep as well. So that adds to your comfort. So think about the actual comfort. That the second C is for cold. You want it cool. You actually want it in the low 60s at the highest, right? Mid 60s at the very top, but really that low 60s. You would rather put those extra blankets on and kind of sleep like this than you would sleep with it warmer and not have as many blankets on you. Again, you want your brain focusing kind of on itself, not on the body. And you want the body to kind of almost, like I said, go into this kind of light hibernation type of a state where everything kind of slows down. And having it cold on the cooler side, science shows that that's the best way to do it. So 60, 65, it's kind of a good range. Personally, I can do it a little bit. If I've got that extra blanket, I can do it a little bit colder. So comfort, cold. The D or the Q is for quiet, right? You want it quiet as possible. You don't want the brain thinking about anything other than what it's doing while it's sleeping. So as quiet as you can have it. Now, again, there are some people that adjustments might need to be made depending on where you live. I grew up in the suburbs, and so I was kind of used to the city white noise. The occasional siren might wake me up for a split second, and then I'd fall right back asleep. Or the barking dogs, those types of things. Like I was used to all of those sounds. When I first moved up into the foothills and we moved on to some acreage, and all of the property around us had acreage, and the only thing that I could hear at night was the wind blowing in the trees and the water in the water irrigation ditch above our house, I had a hard time going to sleep because it was too quiet. Once my brain made that adjustment and adapted to the quiet, my sleep improved greatly. So having that quiet or a controlled noise, and that's why I mentioned the sleep machine earlier or a white noise machine earlier, you're better off to play a sound machine that is going to have nature sounds that kind of overtake any of the city sounds that you might hear, because that's really the quality. Remember, we're talking about not just the quantity, not just the length of your sleep, but also the quality of your sleep. So the quality of your sleep will improve if you have it dark or if you have those that, or I'm sorry, quiet and you have those nature sounds or you have those nature sounds in the background. So comfort, cool, and quiet. And the D is dark, right? I already talked a lot about the impact of light on your melatonin production. So as dark as you possibly can. Light, as soon as it starts to get light. And I notice this where I live because where I live, we have obviously shorter winter days and longer, which most people do, shorter winter days and longer summer days. And for us, it can be quite significant when they throw in that daylight savings time in there. But we will have in the dead of winter, the sun doesn't completely come up until almost, 7:30 a.m. or so in the morning, and it'll start getting dark on the shortest days around 4:35 in the evening. And my brain is a very, very regulated by the light. So I have a hard time getting up in the morning, and that's when all the lights go on, right, to kind of help set my circadian rhythm in the winter. During the summer, I will automatically wake up. So I tell myself to go to bed earlier and shut all of the, make sure all the curtains are shut. But when the light starts coming up in the morning at 5:36 a.m. in the morning, my body is so connected to that light source that I am waking up right away. So you need to think about that with your rhythm, right? If you live in an area where you have longer days, especially during certain times of the year, think about the curtains or the really, really dark blinds, things that will keep it as dark as possible. And this really comes into application if you have to get up during the middle of the night. They have these wonderful little, walk lights or motion censored lights that you can put along your baseboard. Don't work as well for us because we have dogs that wander in and out of the house or in and out of the bedroom. So if the dogs move, then the little lights come on and that wakes me up. But the point is that if you don't want to turn on the main lights. So if you can have motion censored lights that are very close to the floor, so they're not going straight into your eyes and shortening that cycle or disturbing the melatonin production. That's the best thing to do. You want it dark. So if you get up during the middle of the night, just try to always just use runner lights or very, very light, very, very low lights, I should say, close to the ground. So it's doing the least amount of disturbance to the melatonin production in your brain. Okay. So CCQD, don't eat before you go to bed. Make this a regular thing, right? The more you can establish a regular routine, and I know there's things that pop up in our lives that disturb our sleep patterns. Maybe we're out partying too late one night. Okay, I get it. But if you can establish pretty much a regular routine and get your body used to that, then that's going to just improve and enhance your sleep as you go along. So again, establish that routine, do that wind down before you go to bed. Start getting it dark, right? Create that brain friendly environment in your room, or in your sleep room, remembering that even blue light, any light going into your eyes or even blue light blocked devices are still going to disturb your sleep patterns. Okay, so hopefully, and when you do this, you will find that you really will improve your overall health. Your cognitive functions will improve. You will be more motivated to go do things like exercise every day. Exercise will enhance your sleep as well, including a daily physical workout in the AM hours of your day is going to improve your PM sleep hours. So exercise improves it, and you're going to feel more motivated to exercise if you've had a good night's rest. So do these different things, and hopefully you will find that your sleep will improve. And again, I emphasize, if you're sleeping for 8 to 9 hours a night and you're not waking up refreshed, then talk to your health professional about it. Chances are there might be something in you might not be getting those 5 to 6 sleep cycles, 90-minute sleep cycles that you need every night. So do that. And I hope you have a wonderful night's sleep. I hope this information has been helpful. I hope you can start to pay more attention to your sleep because it is critical for your cognitive health, for your brain health, for your physical health, for a whole long list of things that we could spend another hour talking on the Brain Lady Speaks podcast about. Okay. All right. So, wrapping up, as always, if you found this information valuable, then do me a favor and show me a little bit of social media love. Share it out to your contacts, share it out on your platforms, whatever platform that is that you prefer. Also, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a 5-star review. There's all these, all this algorithm stuff. It's in the news all the time. And really, the only way to be found and discovered is the more activity that you have on the page. So if you like the information that we share, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. If you don't like the information, send me an email and tell me why, and I will try to improve. My email is info@brainladyspeaker.com. So if you have any questions about the Brain Lady Speak show, or you have ideas, maybe you want to be interviewed, maybe you have a topic that you want to discuss, maybe you're an expert in a field, maybe you're a sleep expert and you're like, oh, Julie, you said some stuff that wasn't exactly accurate. We need to talk. Reach out to me. Tell me that. Let's get you on the show. I'd love to have that additional information come in. I love interviewing people. I love the dynamics of just the shared wisdom. I just really enjoy that. And our listeners do as well. So send us an email. You can reach out to our speaker liaison, Kelli, Kelli, at brainladyspeaker.com, and let us know. You can also let us know about topics that might be of interest to you or challenges that you have with the show that you think we might use some feedback to improve, because we're always looking for improvement, right? All right. So that is it for now. We're going to wrap this up. I want everybody to do me a big favor. Roll your shoulders back. Take a nice deep breath in. Go out there and simply enjoy every moment and get a really good night's sleep. Bye-bye for now. See you next time.